The doll was sitting on my bed. Not where I had left it. Not where it should have been. It was upright, perfectly poised, hands folded neatly in its lap, as if it had been waiting for me. The dim glow from the hallway cast shadows across its porcelain face, distorting its features, stretching its delicate red-lipped smirk into something far too human. But it wasn't just the smile that made my stomach twist. It was the eyes. They were no longer the cold, lifeless glass they had been before. They glistened now, wet and reflective, as if something inside them was watching. Breathing. Waiting. I took a shaky step backward, my pulse hammering in my ears. But as I moved, so did the doll's head, just a fraction of an inch, so small I almost convinced myself I imagined it. Almost. Then, in the silence of the room, so soft I barely heard it, the doll whispered. "Let me in. Now that you are interested in the story, let me tell it how it all happened from the beginning." Title: I shouldn't have taken the doll. I don't even know how to start this. I guess I just need someone to tell me I'm not crazy. That this isn't actually happening. That there's a logical explanation for everything I've seen. But I don't think there is. This all started 3 nights ago when I bought the doll. And now, I don't think I'm alone in my own home. Last weekend, I was driving back from visiting a friend when I spotted this old roadside flea market just off the highway. You know the kind, rusted signs, vendors selling antiques and junk, the air thick with the smell of dust and mildew. I had time to kill, so I pulled over, figuring I might find something cool. I wandered through the booths, sifting through yellowed books, old clocks, and ceramic figurines with cracked faces. Nothing really caught my eye until I saw her. The doll. She was sitting on a dusty wooden shelf in a stall near the very back. She was unlike any doll I had ever seen. Her porcelain face was eerily lifelike, her glassy blue eyes staring straight ahead, unblinking. Her lips were painted the deepest shade of red, curved into a slight smile, not a sweet, innocent smile, but something off. A smirk, almost. Like she knew something I didn't. I reached out to pick her up, but before I could touch her, the old man running the stall grabbed my wrist. "Not for sale," he muttered, shaking his head. His grip was ice cold. I laughed, caught off guard. "Come on, it's just a doll." His eyes flicked to the doll, then back to me. He swallowed hard. "Take it." His voice was barely above a whisper. "Take it and go. Just don't bring it back." That should have been my first warning. I should have left it there. But I didn't. I brought the doll home and placed it on my nightstand, right next to my bed. I didn't feel creeped out at first. It was just an old doll, right? Nothing weird about that. But that night, I woke up to the sound of scratching. At first, I thought I was dreaming. It was soft, rhythmic, scritch, 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 coming from the direction of my closet. My bedroom was pitch dark, and for a moment, I just lay there, listening. The sound stopped. I told myself it was nothing. The wind, maybe. An old pipe shifting in the walls. I rolled over, forcing myself to go back to sleep. But just as I started drifting off, the scratching started again. And then, ever so slowly, my closet door creaked open. A wave of cold fear washed over me. My body froze, my breath caught in my throat. I lay there, every nerve in my body screaming at me not to look. I squeezed my eyes shut, heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Eventually, somehow, I fell back asleep. When I woke up the next morning, my closet door was wide open. And the doll? The doll wasn't on my nightstand anymore. She was sitting on the floor. Right in front of the open closet. Facing it. I tried to laugh it off. Maybe I knocked her over in my sleep? Maybe I had put her there and just forgot? But as I got ready for work, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease coiling in my stomach. I kept glancing over my shoulder, half expecting to see. I don't know. I told myself I was being ridiculous. I put the doll back on my nightstand and left for work, When I got home that evening, the apartment felt wrong. The air was heavier, thicker. As I walked into the kitchen, my stomach dropped. Every single cabinet was open. I stood frozen in the doorway, my mind racing. I knew, I hadn't left them like that. I shut everything, checked the locks, double-checked that I was alone. And then I heard it. A soft tap. 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 Coming from my bedroom. My skin went cold. I turned the corner, my hands shaking. The closet door was open again. And the doll? She was sitting right in front of it. Facing me. Still smiling. That was 2 nights ago. Since then, things have gotten worse. Last night, I woke up gasping for air, my chest tight like something was sitting on it. The room was suffocatingly still. I reached for my phone to check the time, 3:13 a.m. And then I noticed something. The doll was closer to my bed. I could have sworn I left her across the room before I went to sleep, but now she was right next to me, her porcelain face illuminated by the glow of my phone screen. Her head was tilted slightly to the side. Like she was watching me. I didn't sleep after that. But the worst part? This morning, when I picked her up to move her back, her hands were warm. Like something had just been holding her. I don't know what's happening. I don't know if I'm losing my mind. But I swear, something isn't right with this doll. And last night, I heard something new. A whisper. Right next to my ear. It said my name. Emma. And when I turned on the light, the doll was smiling wider. Title: The Doll Moves. Okay, read it. Things have gotten worse. Much worse. I don't know how much longer I can stay in this house. I need help. I need to know I'm not insane. After my last post, I decided to try and get rid of the doll. It sounds ridiculous, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it was watching me, that it was moving when I wasn't looking. So, I wrapped it in a blanket, shoved it into a box, and drove across town to a Goodwill drop-off. I felt relief the moment I left it there. As if a weight had been lifted off my chest. I went home, trying to convince myself it was over. Just an old doll and an overactive imagination, right? That night, I actually managed to fall asleep. No scratching. No whispers. I thought I was free. Until I woke up. The first thing I noticed was the cold. My bedroom was freezing, my breath visible in the dim moonlight filtering through the curtains. I sat up, shivering, reaching for my phone to check the time. 3:13 a.m. And then I saw it. The doll. It was sitting on the floor at the foot of my bed, perfectly upright, its glassy blue eyes locked onto mine. My heart stopped. I had gotten rid of it. I knew I had. Slowly, I slid out of bed, never taking my eyes off it. I crept towards the doll, my hands trembling. As I reached down, something crunched beneath my foot. Broken glass. My bedroom mirror was shattered, cracks spiderwebbing out from the center. I could see my reflection, fragmented and distorted, but something else, too, behind me. A shadow, long and thin, flickered in the corner of the room. I whipped around, but there was nothing there. Just the empty room. Just the doll. I was shaking too hard to think straight. I grabbed the doll, sprinted downstairs, and threw it in the trash bin outside. I slammed the lid shut, my breaths coming fast and shallow. Back inside, I locked every door and window, double-checking everything. When I finally crawled back into bed, exhaustion pulled me into a restless sleep. This morning, I woke up to find my bedroom door wide open. And there, sitting in my armchair, was the doll. But it was different. Its dress was torn, and its porcelain cheek was cracked, a thin black line running from its eye down to its chin, like a tear. I swear I hadn't done that when I threw it away. I decided to record everything. I set up my phone, propped it on my dresser, and aimed it at the bed and the closet. I needed to know if I was imagining things. The footage? It's wrong. At exactly 3:13 a.m., the room darkens, like a shadow passing over the camera. And then the doll's head turns, slowly, inch by inch, until it's facing the camera directly. And then there's the whispering. I replayed it over and over, trying to make sense of it. It's faint, garbled, like a radio signal breaking through static. But I could make out a few words. Let me in. I felt sick. I grabbed the doll and tried to destroy it. I smashed it against the kitchen counter, but it didn't even chip. I tried burning it, holding a lighter to its dress, but the flames wouldn't catch. It was like the fabric repelled the fire. This afternoon, I left the house for a bit, tried to clear my head. I wandered through town, trying to distract myself. When I got back, the door was unlocked. Every cabinet in my kitchen was open again. The furniture was rearranged, pulled away from the walls like someone, or something, had been searching for something. I found the doll sitting on my bed, surrounded by shards of the broken mirror. And then I saw it. Scratched into the wooden floor, right beneath where the doll was sitting, was a symbol. A jagged, looping design, almost like an eye with a slash through it. I searched online, desperate to understand what was happening. Turns out, it's a symbol associated with summoning rituals to invite demonic entities into our world. I'm terrified. I don't know what to do. This thing, this presence, is getting stronger. I hear whispers now, even during the day. My phone rings with no caller ID, and when I answer, it's just static and faint laughter. The worst part? Just now, I noticed something horrifying. In the mirror's reflection, the doll wasn't alone. There was a second figure behind it, a shadowy silhouette with hollow eyes, watching me through the cracked glass. I don't know what's happening. I don't know how to stop it. But I'm starting to think that the old man at the flea market was right. I should never have brought this thing home. Please, if anyone knows what to do, help me. Before it's too late. Title: It knows my name. I don't know if I should be posting this. I haven't slept in over 24 hours, and I feel like I'm losing my grip on reality. But I need to write it all down while I still can. Maybe if I put it into words, it will make sense. Maybe someone out there has been through this before and can tell me how to stop it. Because it's getting worse. Much, much worse. After my last post, I packed a bag and tried to leave. I wasn't going to stay in a house where something, whatever the hell this is, was stalking me. I didn't care where I went, I just needed to get away. But the second I stepped outside, a wave of nausea hit me so hard I almost collapsed. My vision blurred. My head spun. It felt like the world itself was tilting, like gravity had shifted around me. And then I heard it. A voice, soft and sweet, whispering my name. Emma. It was coming from inside the house. I turned, my stomach twisting. The front door, which I was so sure I had locked behind me, was standing wide open. I swear to God, for a split second, I saw something standing in the doorway. A tall, thin silhouette. But as soon as I blinked, it was gone. The nausea faded. The dizziness passed. And somehow, against every instinct screaming at me to run, I stepped back inside. I don't know why. I had to. I spent the rest of the day trying to ignore what was happening. I told myself I was just exhausted, that my brain was playing tricks on me. But when the sun went down, the voices started. They began as whispers, slithering through the silence of my apartment. At first, I couldn't make out words, just soft, hissing murmurs that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Then they got louder. Emma. Come closer. Let me in. I sat frozen in bed, covers pulled up to my chin, shaking so hard I thought my bones would crack. My breath was shallow, my heart slamming against my ribs. And then, bang. The closet door slammed open. My scream caught in my throat. The room plunged into an unnatural silence. My ears rang with the force of it. And there, sitting on the floor, right in front of the open closet, was the doll. I hadn't put it there. I swear to you, I hadn't put it there. But this time, it was different. Its porcelain hands were positioned differently, its fingers splayed open like it was reaching for something. And its lips. The corners of its painted red lips had curled upward, its smirk widening just a little more. As if it knew. As if it was amused. I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed my phone and recorded everything. I filmed the doll, my room, the closet, everything. When I played the video back, I nearly dropped my phone. Because as I watched myself approach the doll, a shadow moved behind me in the reflection of the mirror. It wasn't my shadow. It was taller. I needed answers. I started searching everything I could about haunted dolls, demonic attachments, anything. And that's when I found something that made my stomach turn to ice. A post from an occult forum. A woman, years ago, had written about a doll exactly like mine, porcelain skin, glassy blue eyes, an eerie red-lipped smirk. She had bought it from a flea market, just like me. And just like me, she had started hearing whispers. She had started waking up to find it closer to her bed each night. Her last post? It wants me to say yes. That was 6 years ago. No one had heard from her since. I don't know what it means. I don't know what it wants. But I'm starting to feel something, changing. My reflection in the mirror seems off. The way it moves doesn't feel quite right, like there's a fraction of a second delay between me and it. And today, when I brushed my hair, I noticed something wrong with my scalp. A tiny, hairline crack, running just above my temple. Like porcelain. Like the doll. And now, as I type this, I can hear something. Not the whispers. Not the scratching. Breathing. It's coming from right behind me. I don't want to turn around. But I think the doll is smiling again. Title: The doll won't let me leave. I can't do this anymore. I don't care if I sound crazy. I don't care if no one believes me. Something is wrong in my apartment. Something is in here with me, and it's not just the doll. It's worse now. It's so much worse. After my last post, I decided to get out. I wasn't going to stay here and let this thing keep messing with me. I packed a bag, grabbed my keys, and bolted for the front door. The second I reached for the doorknob, every light in my apartment exploded. Not just flickered, shattered. The bulbs burst, glass raining down from the ceiling. The TV turned on by itself, the screen glitching, flashing static and shapes I couldn't make sense of. The kitchen cabinets slammed open and shut, banging so violently I thought the doors would snap off their hinges. Then came the whispers. Not from the TV. Not from the doll. From everywhere. Multiple voices, overlapping, muttering, laughing, some so low I could barely hear them, others sharp and urgent, like something warning me. And over it all, one voice stood out. A voice that sounded like me. Emma, don't go. I ran. I sprinted out the door, down the stairs, out into the street. I didn't stop until I was at my car, fumbling to get the door open. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my keys. And then I heard footsteps. Not from behind me. Not from inside the apartment. From the car's back seat. I stopped. My breathing turned shallow. Slowly, I turned my head, just enough to glance through the window. And I saw it. A shape, small, sitting perfectly still in the back seat. The doll. It was already there. I screamed and stumbled back. The car alarm suddenly blared to life, the horn blaring, the wiper scraping across the windshield even though the car was off. My phone started ringing in my pocket, no caller ID. And over the noise, I could hear something else. A growl. I turned just in time to see the dog charging at me. I don't know where it came from, one of the neighbors, maybe, but I had never seen it before. A huge black dog, eyes wide and rolling, frothing at the mouth like it had gone completely rabid. I barely had time to react before it leapt at me. I threw up my arms, bracing for the impact, but just as it lunged, it stopped. Frozen midair. I swear to God, it was like something grabbed it, holding it inches away from my face. The dog whimpered, its legs kicking uselessly, its body twisting against nothing. And then, as if it had been thrown, it slammed into the pavement with a sickening crack. It didn't move again. I ran back inside, locked the door, and collapsed onto the floor, trying not to throw up. My body felt wrong, like my limbs weren't responding properly, like I had been standing too close to something radioactive. The apartment was silent. The doll was sitting on my kitchen table. And right in front of it, in the dust on the wood, were 2 words, drawn with a finger. Stay inside. I don't know what to do. The dog, something killed it. But it wasn't the doll. It was something else. Something I can't see. And now I know for sure, it doesn't want me to leave. Title: The Doll Maker's Secret. I can't be in this apartment anymore. Something is inside with me. It's not just the doll. It's something else, something older. Something waiting. I need to understand what's happening before it's too late. After last night, I knew I had to find out where this thing came from. The man at the flea market had begged me not to take it, like he was afraid of it. I needed to go back. But there was a problem. The flea market doesn't exist anymore. I drove back to where it had been, right off the highway. But the lot was empty. Just cracked pavement and weeds, like nothing had been there for years. No booths. No vendors. No old man with a table full of antiques. Like it had never been there at all. I even checked online, nothing. No records, no business listings. The market was gone. But I did find something else. I started searching for anything about haunted dolls, cursed antiques, anything that could explain what's happening to me. That's when I found a paranormal forum that led me to a name. Matthias Grover. I had never heard of him before, but according to what I read, he was a legend in occult circles, a doll maker in the 1800s. He didn't just make dolls, though. He made vessels. Grover believed that dolls weren't just toys. He thought they could hold things, spirits, emotions, even pieces of the human soul. Most of the dolls he created were meant to be homes for lost souls, the spirits of the dead, given a new body. But there was one doll that was different. One doll that wasn't meant to hold a soul. It was meant to bring something through. The story goes like this. In 1883, Matthias Grover was commissioned to make a special doll. The client? A cult that worshipped something older than God. The details are vague, but what little was written about them is disturbing. They believed that the world we live in is just one layer of reality, and that something waits beneath it, just out of sight. They wanted Grover to create a gateway. A physical object that would allow their God to step through. And he did. The doll he made was unlike any of his others. Its design changed, subtly, almost imperceptibly, depending on who looked at it. The details of its face would shift. Its expression would change. And once it chose someone, it wouldn't let them go. I felt sick. This had to be a myth, right? Just another urban legend buried in an internet rabbit hole. But I kept digging. That's when I found the photo. It was a scanned newspaper clipping from 1921. A grainy, black and white image of a child clutching a porcelain doll. The caption read, "Missing girl found in woods after 3 weeks. Claims she was with the doll maker." I leaned closer, heart pounding. The doll, it looked exactly like mine. Same porcelain skin. Same glassy blue eyes. Same slight, knowing smile. Then I found another article. 1956. A house fire. No survivors. The only thing recovered from the wreckage? A single, untouched porcelain doll. Same doll. 1978. A woman vanishes from her apartment. No forced entry, no signs of struggle. Her last known purchase? An antique porcelain doll. Same damn doll. The stories went back centuries. Different locations. Different people. Same doll. And then I found the most recent entry. A Reddit thread from 6 years ago. A girl describing exactly what's happening to me, the whispers, the furniture moving, the feeling of being watched. The final post in her thread? It's starting to look like me. I threw my laptop across the room. My hands were shaking. This can't be real. But then I looked up. And I saw the doll. Sitting on my dresser. Grinning. I grabbed my phone, desperate to compare it to the old photo. I pulled up the newspaper image, side by side with the doll in front of me. And that's when I saw it. The face had changed. It still looked like porcelain. Still had the same painted lips, the same glass eyes. But the shape. The angles of the cheekbones. The curve of the nose. The subtle resemblance. It was starting to look like me. I don't know what to do. I think this thing is getting closer. Title: The Ritual Begins. I can hear it whispering, even when the apartment is silent. It never stops. I don't know how long I've been awake now. Time feels strange, slipping through my fingers like sand. The hours bleed together, and I keep catching myself losing chunks of time, staring at the walls or at my own reflection, unable to remember what I was doing moments before. The whispers are louder now. They started as faint murmurs in the dark, just behind my ear, always vanishing the second I turned to look. But now they are everywhere, inside the walls, seeping through the floor, twisting around my thoughts like vines. They are no longer just whispers. Now, they are chanting. I don't understand the words. I don't think they belong to any human language. They rise and fall in strange, unnatural patterns, spoken by voices that should not exist. Some sound high-pitched, almost childlike, while others are so deep they seem to rattle the air itself. And through it all, one voice keeps standing out. My own. It started yesterday, or maybe the day before. I was in the bathroom, splashing cold water on my face, trying to snap myself out of this nightmare. The exhaustion was making my limbs feel heavy, my thoughts sluggish. I gripped the edges of the sink, breathing deeply, forcing myself to focus on something solid, something real. Then I looked up. My reflection was wrong. It was still me, but it wasn't moving. I blinked rapidly, my stomach twisting. The version of me in the mirror just stood there, staring back, motionless. And then, after a few long, suffocating seconds, it smiled. Not a natural, human expression. It was slow, deliberate, the corners of my mouth curling upward in a way that didn't belong on my face. My chest tightened with panic, my fingers digging into the porcelain sink. Then it spoke. It spoke in my own voice. Emma. I stumbled backwards so fast I nearly fell, my breath coming in sharp, uneven gasps. The moment I broke eye contact, the reflection snapped back into place, perfectly normal again. But before I could process what had happened, something else made my blood run cold. A soft, breathy giggle, coming from behind me. I turned my head slowly, my entire body numb with terror. And there, sitting in the bathroom doorway, was the doll. I hadn't put it there. I knew I hadn't. I had thrown it into the closet the night before, locked it away, blocked the door with a chair, anything to keep it from moving. But now it was here, closer than ever. Its head was tilted slightly to the side, like it was studying me. The smirk on its porcelain face looked wider than before, the painted red lips curving unnaturally. Then, it spoke. Its lips didn't move, but I heard its voice clearly, as if it were standing right next to me. My voice. Your soul is almost ready. I felt the world tilt beneath me, my vision blurring at the edges. I kicked the doll away, sending it tumbling across the floor, the sound of porcelain scraping against tile making my skin crawl. I didn't stop to think. I grabbed the doll with shaking hands, ran to the closet, and threw it inside. I slammed the door shut, shoved the chair back under the handle, and stood there, panting, my forehead pressed against the wood. It was inside. It couldn't get out. At least, that's what I told myself. That was when I saw the note. It hadn't been there before. I was sure of it. A single sheet of paper sat on my desk, slightly crumpled, as if someone had just set it down. I took slow, cautious steps toward it, my pulse thudding in my ears. The handwriting was mine. But I never wrote this. The ink was smudged in places, but the words were clear, standing out against the yellowed paper like a warning carved into stone. Your soul is almost ready. I dropped it like it had burned me, stumbling backward, my breathing ragged. My mind was screaming at me, trying to make sense of this, but there was no explanation. No logical reason for any of this. Then the lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then they went out. The apartment was plunged into total darkness. For a moment, there was nothing but silence. A heavy, suffocating stillness that made my skin prickle with dread. Then, a whisper. Not from the closet. Not from the walls. From the pitch-black darkness right behind me. It was lower than before, slow and deliberate, curling around me like a hand on my throat. Run. Title: The doll took everything, and now it wants more. Hey, read it. I don't even know how to put this into words, and I doubt anyone will believe me, but I need to write it down while I still can. Maybe if I document everything, if I leave some kind of record, it will help me make sense of what's happening. Or maybe it's too late for that. Maybe it was always too late. I haven't slept in what feels like days, though time has started to lose all meaning in this place. The clocks don't work anymore, or maybe I just can't trust what they tell me. My phone battery has been at 27% for the last 6 hours, refusing to die, refusing to charge, as if it's caught in some kind of limbo, just like me. The apartment feels smaller, as though the walls have subtly inched closer, warping in ways that my brain can't quite process, shifting when I'm not looking. At times, I catch myself standing in the middle of a room, unsure how I got there, the edges of my mind fraying like an old tapestry unraveling thread by thread. But none of that matters anymore. Not compared to what I saw last night. For those of you who have been following my posts, you know about the doll. You know how I found it, how I brought it home, despite every rational instinct telling me I should leave it where it was, how I ignored the warning of the man at the flea market who seemed almost desperate to be rid of it. You know how it moved when I wasn't looking, how it whispered in the dark, how it started to look more and more like me with each passing night. But what I haven't told you, what I have barely allowed myself to acknowledge, is that it wasn't just the doll that was changing. It was me. It started small. My reflection in the mirror would feel slightly delayed, just by a fraction of a second, as if it needed time to remember how to mimic me. Sometimes, I would catch my own face shifting when I wasn't moving, the corners of my lips curving upward into that same knowing smirk that had been painted onto the doll's porcelain mouth. And then there were the dreams, vivid, suffocating nightmares in which I would wake up standing in front of the mirror, staring at my own face, except it wasn't my face anymore. The features were too perfect, too smooth, the skin flawless and unblemished, with a glassy sheen that caught the light in all the wrong ways. And then, 2 nights ago, I saw her. Not the doll. Me. She was sitting on my couch, legs crossed casually, one arm draped over the armrest as if she had always belonged there. At first, my mind refused to process what I was seeing, as if it were trying to protect me from a truth too horrific to comprehend. She was identical to me in every way, same hair, same clothes, same exhausted eyes. The only difference was the expression. While I stood there frozen in shock and terror, she smiled. It wasn't an ordinary smile. It was slow, deliberate, stretching wider than my lips should have been able to stretch, as if she were testing the limits of her new face. "Almost ready," she said, and I swear to God, it was my voice. The sound sent an icy spike of fear through my chest, but I forced myself to move, to react, to do something other than stand there trembling like a deer caught in headlights. I lunged forward, determined to grab her, to shake her, to prove that she wasn't real, that this was some kind of fever dream brought on by sleep deprivation and paranoia. But the second my fingers touched her shoulder, my entire body locked up, as if I had been submerged in ice water. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't even scream. She stood up slowly, stretching like she was settling into her skin for the first time, rolling her shoulders, flexing her fingers, testing the weight of her own body. And then, as I stood there, paralyzed and helpless, she reached up and touched my face, my cheek, my jaw, her cold fingers ghosting over my skin with something almost like curiosity. And then she stepped into me. Or maybe I stepped into her. I don't know. I woke up hours later, sprawled on the floor, my body aching as if I had been drained of something vital and irreplaceable. The apartment was silent, the air heavy, pressing down on me like an invisible weight. I struggled to my feet, my limbs sluggish and uncooperative, as if I were moving through deep water. My head throbbed, my vision swimming, but somehow, I managed to stumble to the bathroom, gripping the sink for support as I stared at my reflection. At first, everything looked normal. And then I blinked. And my reflection didn't. I stood there, unable to move, unable to look away, as my own face smirked back at me, just a subtle, almost imperceptible upward twitch of the lips, but enough to send a jolt of pure, unfiltered horror through every nerve in my body. No, I whispered, shaking my head. No, no, no. But my reflection tilted its head slightly to the side, studying me with an amused expression, as if it were watching a particularly entertaining performance. "You took too long," it said, in a voice that was both mine and not mine. I don't remember much of what happened after that. I think I screamed. I think I smashed the mirror, though I can't be sure if I actually did or if I just wanted to. The next thing I knew, I was sitting on the floor of my living room, knees pulled to my chest, staring at the empty spot where the doll used to be. It was gone. But somehow, I knew the truth. I knew that it hadn't disappeared. It had become me. I don't know how much time I have left. I can feel it inside me, wearing me down, reshaping me from the inside out. My thoughts don't feel like my own anymore. My movements feel slightly off, like a marionette being guided by invisible strings. My reflection no longer waits for me to move first. And worst of all? I don't think I care anymore. The fear is fading. The resistance is slipping away. And there's something else, something cold and dark and ancient, whispering in the back of my mind, telling me that it's easier this way. That I should stop fighting. That I should let go. I think I will. After all, it's such a beautiful night outside. Maybe I'll go for a walk. Maybe I'll find another flea market. Maybe I'll find another doll. And maybe I'll bring it home. Thank you for watching this story to the end. Subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with new stories. I also look forward to your comments, criticisms, and suggestions below this video.